There are moments in life that divide you in two, the person you were before and the person you become after. For Elena, that moment came on an ordinary Tuesday in October, when leaves were falling and the world seemed to follow its normal course, oblivious to the pain that was about to unleash in her heart. Elena was 32 years old. She was an elementary school teacher, had a husband she loved deeply, and had just discovered she was pregnant with her first child. Her life was simple, but full of love and hope. Every morning she woke up with a smile, believing in the goodness of the world, in the loyalty of those close to her, in the existence of true love. Everything changed with a single phone call. It was her best friend, Lucia, the woman with whom she had shared secrets since adolescence, the chosen godmother for her future baby, the person she trusted most after her husband. Her voice trembled on the other end of the line. "Elena, I have to tell you something. I can't keep this secret anymore. Your husband, Marcos, and we've been together for 6 months." Elena's world stopped. The following words were a blur of pain. 6 months, half a year, while she was planning her future, while she caressed her belly talking to her baby, while she cooked special dinners and treasured every precious moment in her heart, her reality was a carefully constructed lie. It wasn't just her husband's betrayal, it was the double betrayal. It was the deception of the two people she considered her entire world outside her family. It was discovering that every hug from Lucia had been false, that every "I love you" from Marcos had been stained with the guilt of another woman. Elena didn't cry during that call. She simply hung up. She sat on her kitchen floor, surrounded by the deepest silence she had ever experienced, and felt something inside her break. It wasn't just her heart, it was her faith in humanity, her ability to trust, her innocence. That night, when Marcos came home, she had already packed his things. There were no screams, no drama, only empty stares and cold words. "I know everything. Leave." He tried to explain, to beg, to justify, but Elena was no longer there. The woman he knew had died that very day. The following months were the darkest of Elena's life. The divorce was quick but devastating. Marcos married Lucia just 3 months after everything came to light. Elena saw the photos on social media before she could block them. Lucia wore a white dress. They smiled as if nothing had happened, as if they hadn't destroyed someone to build their happiness. Elena's pregnancy became her only purpose. Every day she got up, not for herself, but for the life growing inside her. She went to work with a fake smile. She answered, "I'm fine," when no one really asked. At night, she cried herself to sleep, her pillow soaked with tears and unanswered questions. What had she done wrong? How did she not see it coming? Why her? Rage was a constant poison in her veins. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw their faces. She imagined confrontations she would never have. She thought about revenge, about justice, about them someday suffering as much as she was suffering. Her therapist, Dr. Ramirez, told her something that made her angry. Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Elena didn't want to hear it. She wanted her pain. She needed it. It was all she had left of that relationship, of that friendship. If she let go of the anger, what would remain? Emptiness? She gave birth to a beautiful girl in April. She named her Sophia, which means wisdom. As she held her daughter for the first time, Elena cried. But this time, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of something new, something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Sophia wouldn't know this story. Sophia would grow up surrounded by love, not bitterness. Sophia deserved a complete mother, not a woman broken by the past. And in that moment, looking into those innocent eyes, Elena made the most difficult decision of her life. She had to forgive. Not for them, for herself, for Sophia, for the life that still awaited her. Forgiving wasn't a moment, it was a journey. Long, painful, full of setbacks and doubts. Elena started with small steps. She stopped checking Marcos and Lucia's social media. Every time she felt tempted, she hugged Sophia instead. She began writing in a journal, pouring all her pain, rage, and confusion onto pages no one else would read. Dr. Ramirez taught her something powerful. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean saying what they did was okay. It means releasing the control those people have over your peace of mind. Elena attended support groups. She met other women who had gone through similar betrayals. Some were still trapped in their pain years later. Others had found peace. Elena observed the difference between them. Those who had forgiven shined differently. They smiled more easily. They talked about the future, not the past. One night, 6 months after Sophia's birth, Elena sat down with a blank sheet of paper and a pen. She wrote 2 letters, one for Marcos, one for Lucia. She wouldn't send them. They weren't for them. They were for her. In each letter, she wrote everything she felt. The pain, the betrayal, the rage, but she also wrote something else. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, not because what you did is okay. I forgive you because I deserve peace. I deserve to live without this weight in my heart. I deserve to be free. She cried as she wrote. She cried as she read them, and then she burned them in her backyard, watching the fire consume the words, the pain, the past. It wasn't magical. The next day, she still felt sadness. There were still moments of anger, but something had changed. The burden was lighter. The poison was beginning to leave her system. Elena started building a new life, a life that wasn't defined by what had been taken from her, but by what she was creating. She returned to painting, something she hadn't done since college. She went out with new friends, people who didn't know her story, who saw her as the woman she was now, not the victim she had been. And slowly, day by day, Elena began to heal. 2 years after the day that changed her life, Elena was at the supermarket with Sophia, now a 2-year-old who ran through the aisles with infinite energy. Elena chased her, laughing. When turning a corner, she came face to face with Lucia. Time stopped. Lucia was pregnant, visibly several months along. Their eyes met, and both froze. Elena felt a wave of emotions, surprise, discomfort, a distant echo of the pain that once consumed her. But something had changed. The poison was no longer there. Lucia spoke first, her voice barely a whisper. "Elena? Elena saw something in Lucia's eyes she didn't expect. Shame, regret, pain. Lucia wasn't the triumphant villain Elena had imagined in her worst moments. She was a woman carrying her own guilt, her own burden. In that moment, Elena had a choice. She could turn and walk away. She could say something hurtful. She could let bitterness have the last word. But instead, she took a deep breath and said something that surprised even herself. "I wish you the best, Lucia." It wasn't easy to say. The words were heavy, but as she spoke them, Elena felt something release inside her, the last chain, the last residue of resentment. Lucia began to cry. "I'm so sorry. I've never stopped regretting." Elena took Sophia's hand. "What happened, happened. We all make mistakes. We all carry consequences. I chose to forgive, not for you, but for myself, and I hope you find your own peace." She walked away without looking back. Sophia asked, "Mommy, who was that lady?" Elena smiled. "Someone from the past, my love. Just someone from the past." That night, Elena looked herself in the mirror. The woman looking back was different from the one who had stood in that same position 2 years ago. This woman had scars, yes, but she also had strength. She had wisdom. She had peace. Forgiveness hadn't erased what happened, but it had freed her from living as a prisoner of that past. 5 years after that phone call that destroyed her world, Elena was giving a talk at a local community center. She had been invited to speak about resilience and healing. The room was full of people, many with their own stories of pain and betrayal. "People think forgiveness is a gift you give to the person who hurt you," Elena began, her voice firm and clear. "But that's not true. Forgiveness is the gift you give yourself. It's the key that opens your own prison." She looked at the audience, seeing faces of all kinds, some skeptical, some with tears in their eyes, some hopeful. "They asked me if I ever regret forgiving. The answer is no. Because forgiving didn't mean what they did to me was okay. It didn't mean I trusted those people again. It didn't mean I forgot. It meant I chose not to let their decision define the rest of my life." Elena shared her story, the tears, the darkness, the path to healing. And something magical happened. People in the room began to nod. They began to cry. They began to heal. "Forgiveness is selfish in the best sense of the word," she continued. "You do it for yourself, for your peace of mind, for your future, for the people you love who don't deserve to inherit your pain." After the talk, a woman approached Elena. Her eyes were red from crying. "I've been carrying hatred for my sister for 10 years, she said. 10 years feeling that forgiveness would be betraying myself. But now I understand. Betraying myself is continuing to live in that prison." Elena hugged the woman. "Forgiveness isn't instantaneous. It's a decision you make every day. Some days will be harder than others, but each day you choose it, you become more free." That night, back home, Elena tucked Sophia into bed. Her daughter was now 5 years old, full of life, joy, and love. She didn't know bitterness. She didn't know resentment. She only knew the love of a mother who had chosen to heal. "Mommy," Sophia said before falling asleep, "you said in your talk that forgiveness makes you free. What does it mean to be free?" Elena smiled, stroking her daughter's hair. "Being free is waking up without weight in your heart. It's being able to smile genuinely. It's living in the present without being trapped in the past. It's being able to love again without fear." "Are you free, Mommy?" "Yes, my love. Now I am free." And it was true. Elena had rebuilt her life in a way she never would have imagined. She had a new career as a motivational speaker. She had fallen in love again, this time with a good man who valued her strength and vulnerability. She had deep friendships built on honesty and mutual respect. But most importantly, she had peace. Forgiveness hadn't erased the scars. She would always remember that terrible October. She would always have the memory of betrayal, but those memories no longer controlled her. They no longer defined who she was. They were simply part of her story, not the totality of her identity. Elena had learned the deepest lesson, that sometimes the people who hurt us most give us the involuntary gift of forcing us to discover our own strength. Marcos and Lucia had destroyed her life, yes, but in doing so, they had created the space for Elena to build a better life, an authentic life, a free life. If you're watching this and carrying pain in your heart for someone who betrayed you, hurt you, or destroyed you, I want you to know something. Your pain is real. Your anger is valid. What they did to you is not okay. But there's a difference between validating your pain and living in it forever. Forgiveness is not for them. It's for you. It's the radical decision to reclaim your power, your peace, your future. You don't have to forgive today. Maybe you won't be ready tomorrow. But when you're ready, when you decide you no longer want that person to have control over your happiness, remember this. Forgiving is not weak. It's the bravest act you can do. It's choosing freedom over prison. It's choosing the future over the past. It's choosing yourself. Your story doesn't end with your pain. It only begins when you decide to heal.